Hi, I'm Jackie Barker. I run a company called Opsology, which is designed to help companies solve thorny problems in their operations and supply chain. I have a background which started in procurement and operations. I started as a buyer at an organisation called the Consortium, which at the time was a not-for-profit supply organisation. I then moved to Hewlett-Packard, to their worldwide supply business for tape drives, which is computer backup, and I emerged as a supply chain manager from Hewlett-Packard. I started at a startup company called ClearSpeed, and I set up their supply chain. They were a silicon processor company, and then I moved to PeakChip, who have recently been bought by an American company called Mindspeed, and who are way past the startup phase into volume manufacturing and silicon products and boards. So I have this 20-year background in supply chain, and I'm going to talk to you and tell you some stories about why I think supply chain strategy and business strategy are so inextricably linked. Quite often you find supply chain, because it's concerned with the order fulfillment process, the process of getting real actual product into the hands of customers in response to their requests, is regarded as a nuts and bolts after the fact, it doesn't really matter how we do it kind of an operation. It's quite often bolted together from things that were already there through happenstance and accident. It's not very often, in my experience, designed from scratch as a strategic enterprise, and in my view that's a massive missed opportunity for business. In my view, there's a strong link between profitability and the design of your supply chain, the thoughtful design of your supply chain from the bottom up. And instead of seeing supply chain as something that delivers volume in the volume section of a product life cycle, supply chain is really something that should be designed right from the very beginning. And so if you think of supply chain as a machine that delivers products to customers, then you have the opportunity to design this machine to do that in the most effective and efficient way possible. And so really the job of supply chain then becomes designing and building that machine, and then once it's running for existing products in volume, really you should spend about 5% of your time dusting the machine and making sure it's still running, so that supply chain and operations then becomes much more interesting work to do, because instead of needing to just be about producing product on production lines or in response to customer orders, it's really about designing and building the machine and then altering the machine as circumstances dictate. So 95% of your time is spent on strategy and on new product and a new product introduction, and 5% on dusting the lovely machine that you built to do it all effectively and efficiently. So when I worked at ClearSpeed, ClearSpeed was a startup, it was a silicon company, and we built processors. So we had quite a complicated silicon design, and we needed a foundry partner who was really pretty high up in terms of technical know-how, because we were using brand new IP blocks at new geometries. So really not anyone in the silicon industry could have really made our product. But we decided to do something that was deeply unfashionable at the time, and we based our entire manufacturing supply chain in the US. So at a time when everyone else was basing their supply chain in Asia, we were going in completely the opposite direction. And there are a number of reasons for that. So first of all, ClearSpeed's customers were all expected to be in the US. There were suppliers in the US who had the right skills and the right know-how. We wanted to be close to our customers, and we decided that actually the trade-off we needed to make in terms of unit cost to our ability to flex was a trade-off that we wanted to make in the direction of our ability to be flexible. So that is, in my terms, we were more likely to take the company down through over or under supply, through getting it wrong because our demand uncertainty was so enormous, than we were about a few points here or there in terms of gross margin. Broadly, when customers ordered from us, they ordered at a price that gave us a gross margin that was good enough. The biggest question for the company was whether or not customers would order and in what quantities. So we built a supply chain that was designed to match our suppliers' design. So we had a foundry in the US, we shipped products across the US to the West Coast to be built into chips and then tested. And then we used a very small, very quick, fast turn house to turn our chips into boards. And then we could literally drive them around the Bay Area if we needed to for customers who, by the time they've placed their orders, are always desperate for them, which is quite hard to supply off a 16-week foundry lead time. So we did something that really matched the needs of our company to our supply chain. So we didn't just allow our supply chain to develop or to evolve without thought. We thought about the circumstances in which our customers were operating, the circumstances in which we were operating, and then we matched our supply chain to those circumstances in a way that was thoughtful and deliberate. And my experience of supply chain so far is that actually that's quite rare. So now, although we weren't concerned with unit cost, of course, we're all buyers at heart, so that doesn't mean that we don't care about it. So we traded off unit cost for supply flexibility, but we still wanted to build the most efficient and effective machine that we could in order to deliver this product. So we had a machine that was based on a very simple database. We placed blanket purchase orders with all of our suppliers. We linked their shop floor information systems into our database, and we were able to follow our products through each of their manufacturing floors and out to our customers using a pretty simple system. When customers placed orders with us, we shipped that information electronically via the internet to our suppliers and used those as ship-to triggers. So the product never came anywhere near our premises. It was all a remote supply chain. It was a remote supply chain that happened close to our customers. And then when the customers opened the box, our electronic system would ensure that the paperwork that had printed out and come with the box said, here are your products from ClearSpeed. So for the customer, it looked like a complete transaction that they'd had with ClearSpeed, and they didn't need to know that the supply chain was managed from 8,000 to 10,000 miles away, and indeed, why should they? So that was the example of ClearSpeed, and now I'll talk a little bit about Pikachip. So I inherited Pikachip's supply chain at a different stage. It had really gone through the phase of being called a startup and had started to get real live purchase orders from real live customers who had designed product into their product and were starting to ship in volume. And really that was the problem. So it's interesting, isn't it, that companies get exactly what they've wanted and exactly what they anticipated, and actually that's a massive problem, being able to supply it. So we had a foundry partner who was based in Asia, so that much was set. We bought in dollars and we mostly sold in dollars, so that was set. But bizarrely, the supply chain was set up so that product was coming from Asia to be tested in Europe, in Denmark to be precise. And nobody could really answer the question of why that was happening. So, if you sit down and look at a supply chain that you've drawn out, it's perfectly possible to see there was no reason to bring that product into Europe. In fact, most of our customers were also building their product in Asia. So actually Asia was the perfect place to have it. So this is an example where unit cost and strategy, you didn't actually need to trade them off. They both led you in the same direction. So we moved our test operation back to Asia. We used the same company who were already doing our assembly for us. So we managed to cut cost in two ways. I mean, first of all, it was just cheaper to test in Asia. And secondly, we took out that profit margin build-up in the cost of our product by taking out completely one of the companies that was charging us their margin. So we really got a free pass, as well as it being quicker for our customers, we're also then having the assembly and the test done not only in the same country, not only in the same company, but actually on the same site, so that then once the product is tested, the feedback loop for correction almost happens, if you're a European customer, while you're asleep. You don't actually have to get involved, and there's no finger pointing involved. By the time you wake up, you've got a phone call to say, overnight we had a problem, and we've talked to the guys in production, and this is what they've done about it. So it's really difficult to see why a supply chain had ever come about where products that belonged in Asia ever came across to Europe. I can only think really that somebody thought it was a good idea for products to earn air miles. So, in my view, supply chain strategy and supply chain design are essential to the profitable operation of a business, and supply chain should never ever be something that comes about, that is allowed to evolve. It should be designed precisely for the company and the product and the customers and their requirement. It is a machine that needs to be designed to fit the purpose. The job of operations and supply chain people is to design and build the machine and get it to run so smoothly that they need only return occasionally and dust it, and with a bit of luck think about how to run brand new products or brand new types of customers or markets through that same machine.